I'm Jessica Monroe, 36 years old, freelance accountant. 3 weeks ago, my younger sister Emily accidentally added me to a family group chat called Family Core. 1,247 messages, 6 years of conversations, and a nickname I never knew I had, the failure one. But the messages weren't even the worst part. Buried in that chat was proof that my family had been using my name, my credit, my identity, without my knowledge or consent. $47,000 in loans I never signed for. 3 scholarship applications I never authorized. 2 tax benefit claims I never agreed to. All in my name, all without a single signature from me. My own mother wrote, and I'm quoting her exactly, "Jessica won't notice. She doesn't even check her credit score. I saved everything, every message, every document, every lie." Then I sent one line into that chat and watched them panic. So the useless one is the one carrying it all. Interesting math. What happened at my grandmother's 75th birthday party 3 weeks later? Let's just say the perfect family image didn't survive the night. But to understand that night, you need to understand how I got there. If any of this sounds familiar, being the invisible one, the one they talk about but never talk to, stick around. And if you want to hear how this ends, hit subscribe now so you don't miss a thing. Let me take you back to 3 weeks before the party. To the night, everything changed. It was a Tuesday evening around 7. I was at my kitchen table finishing up quarterly reports for a client. My apartment was small, quiet, mine. A 1-bedroom in a modest Connecticut complex. Nothing fancy, but I'd earned every square foot of it myself. The kind of place my family described as cozy, which was their code for disappointing. My phone rang. The caller ID made me pause. Grandma Margaret, she usually called on Sundays. We had a rhythm, her and I. Sunday morning check-ins, sometimes lasting an hour, sometimes just 10 minutes of comfortable silence while she worked in her garden and I drank my coffee. A Tuesday call meant something was different. Jessica, honey. Her voice was warm but purposeful. I'm calling about my birthday, 75 years old, can you believe it? I smiled despite the surprise. I wouldn't miss it, Grandma. I know you wouldn't. You never do. There was something in her tone, a weight I couldn't quite identify. But before I could ask, she continued. I want you to know something, Jessica. Whatever happens at the party, whatever you might hear or see, remember this. Grandma sees you. I've always seen you. I didn't understand. Grandma, what do you mean? A pause, then softer. Just remember that, okay? Grandma keeps track of everything. We talked for a few more minutes, but my mind kept circling back to those words. Grandma keeps track. At the time, I thought she was being sentimental. Old woman wisdom, I told myself. The kind of thing people say when they're staring down 75. I didn't know then that those words were a warning and a promise. After we hung up, I sat at my table for a long time, thinking about Grandma and the family she'd built. Or rather, the family that had built itself around her while she watched from her garden, notebook in hand, writing everything down. I thought about Emily, my younger sister by 4 years, the one with the big house, the successful husband, the 2 beautiful children, the 80,000 Instagram followers who watched her every curated moment. Family first, her bio read. Blessed beyond measure. Emily had mastered the art of looking successful. Whether she actually was, that was a different question. And then there was me, 36, single, freelance accountant working from a tiny apartment. No husband, no kids, no Instagram following. In my family's eyes, I was the cautionary tale, the one who hadn't figured it out. The one they discussed in hushed tones when they thought I couldn't hear. She's doing fine, my mother would say to anyone who asked, keeping busy with her little freelance thing. Little. As if 16 years of building a client base, earning a CPA license, and maintaining a spotless professional reputation was a hobby, something to fill the time between failures. The truth was, I'd made choices, deliberate ones. I valued flexibility over corner offices, independence over impressive titles. I wasn't unsuccessful, I was just quiet about my success. But in a family that measured worth by Instagram posts and square footage, Quiet meant pathetic. I thought about the last family gathering. Thanksgiving, 8 months ago. Emily had arrived in a new Range Rover, Derek right behind her in his Tesla. They'd parked in the driveway like a car commercial while I pulled up in my 12-year-old Honda, the one that ran perfectly fine and cost me nothing in monthly payments. "Nice car, Jess," Derek had said with that smile of his, the one that looked friendly if you didn't know him, very practical. Practical. Another code word, like cozy, like freelance, like quiet. I'd spent that Thanksgiving in the kitchen, helping Grandma with the turkey while Emily posed for photos with the children. Later, when everyone gathered for the meal, I noticed the seating arrangement. Emily next to Grandma, Derek beside Emily, my mother on Grandma's other side, me at the far end, next to Uncle Frank, who spent the entire meal complaining about his golf game. Nobody planned it that way, I told myself. It's just how things worked out. I was good at telling myself that. Too good. There was something else I'd been telling myself for years, something about my credit score, about the strange dip it had taken 6 years ago when I'd tried to buy a small condo. The mortgage officer had called with confusion in his voice. "Ms. Monroe, there seems to be an issue with your credit history. Your score is significantly lower than expected. I'd never missed a payment, never carried unnecessary debt. But somehow my score had plummeted. Existing debt obligations, they'd said. Accounts I didn't recognize. I'd requested my credit report, gotten overwhelmed by the complexity, and told myself I'd figure it out later. Later never came. I gave up on the condo, moved to the apartment I was sitting in now, and pushed the whole thing to the back of my mind. Now I wondered. Now, sitting in my kitchen with Grandma's strange words echoing in my head, I wondered if maybe I should have looked harder, asked more questions, demanded answers. But that wasn't who I was. I was the quiet one, the one who didn't make waves, the one who accepted her place at the edge of the family photo and smiled anyway. 2 days later, everything changed. It was 10:47 in the evening. I remember the exact time because I looked at my phone when it buzzed, considered ignoring it, almost set it back on the nightstand. I wish I had. And I'm grateful I didn't. The notification glowed on my screen. Emily Monroe added you to Family Core. I stared at it for a long moment. Family Core. I'd never heard of any family group chat. But then again, why would I? I was always the last to know about family plans, always getting information secondhand if I got it at all. Maybe it was new. A party planning group for Grandma's birthday. That would make sense. My thumb hovered over the notification. Something cold crept up my spine, a feeling I couldn't name but couldn't ignore. I tapped the screen. The chat opened, and the first thing I saw was the message count. 1,247. That couldn't be right. I scrolled up, looking for the beginning, trying to understand. The chat was created 6 years ago. 6 years. I checked the member list. My mother, Diane, my sister, Emily, my Aunt Patricia, Derek, Emily's husband, 2 of my cousins, 6 people total. Everyone except Grandma, and everyone except me. For 6 years, my family had maintained a group chat called Family Core, a place to discuss family things, and for 6 years, I wasn't part of it. My hands started shaking, not from cold, from something else entirely. I scrolled to the very beginning, to the first message ever sent 6 years ago when this chat was created. It was from Aunt Patricia. Finally, a place to talk without you-know-who seeing. Emily's reply came seconds later. Failure-free zone, love it. And my mother, my own mother. Girls, don't be mean, but yeah, this is nice, lol. The room tilted. I sat there in the dark, phone glowing in my hands, and felt something crack open inside my chest. They had a name for me, a place to talk about me, a 6-year archive of conversations I was never meant to see. And this was just message 1, 1,246 to go. I didn't sleep that night. By 3 in the morning, I'd read every single message, and by 3:15 I understood exactly what my family had done to me. They hadn't just mocked me, they'd stolen from me. And now, I had proof. Message 1. Failure-free zone. Love it. My sister's words. About me, 1,246 messages left to read. I sat up in bed, blanket pushed aside, the room dark except for the glow of my phone. The clock showed 10:52. 5 minutes since I'd been added to the chat. 5 minutes since my world started tilting off its axis. Part of me wanted to stop, close the app, pretend I'd never seen it, go back to being the woman who didn't know, who couldn't prove the things she'd always suspected. But the accountant in me needed data, needed to understand the full picture before making any decisions. I'd spent 16 years finding discrepancies in other people's spreadsheets. Now I was about to find them in my own family. I scrolled to the beginning and started reading, systematically, oldest to newest. The way you audit a ledger. The first few weeks of messages painted a clear picture of why this chat existed. Aunt Patricia had written, "Jessica's been so negative lately. Everything's a problem with her." My mother responded, "She's just going through a phase." But yes, it's exhausting. Then Emily, "Can we please have one family dinner without her sighing about everything?" I remembered that time. I'd just lost my biggest client, was stressed about making rent, worried about the future. I wasn't being negative. I was struggling, and instead of asking if I was okay, they'd created a secret chat to complain about my attitude. The nicknames evolved slowly, like a wound that festers. Month 1, I was the quiet one. Month 3, the boring one. By month 6, they'd shortened it to you-know-who, like I was some kind of villain they couldn't bear to name. By the end of year 1, I'd become the failure. And by year 2, it had calcified into something permanent. The failure one. Said with such casual cruelty, like it was simply a fact. Like calling the sky blue or water wet. There was a thread about Thanksgiving from year 1. Emily asking, "Should we call her about the holiday?" My mother's response made my stomach turn. "Do we have to?" Then Aunt Patricia chiming in with her verdict. "The failure one will just bring the mood down." And Emily laughing it off. "Lol, true. I'll text her last minute so she can't complain we didn't invite her." I remembered that Thanksgiving. I remembered getting Emily's text 2 days before, feeling grateful to be included at all. I remembered showing up in a blue sweater while everyone else wore coordinated burgundy. The photo from that day was still on Emily's Instagram. "Family photo fail," her caption read, with a laughing emoji. Someone didn't get the memo. They'd planned that. I saw the messages now. The deliberate choice to exclude me from the color coordination, the way they'd laughed afterward. "She looked so confused, Loma ooh," Aunt Patricia had written, and I had been confused. I'd thought it was an accident, a miscommunication. It wasn't. It was never an accident. Year 2 brought a new member to the chat. Derek, Emily's husband, welcomed into the fold with open arms. His first message made me grip my phone tighter. "So this is where the real family talks happen?" "I'm honored," my mother had responded warmly. "Welcome to the inner circle, Derek. Unlike some people, you actually contribute. My brother-in-law was inner circle before I even knew there was a circle." Years 3 and 4 were worse. The mockery deepened, spreading into every corner of my life. My career became a running joke. Aunt Patricia wrote, "Still doing freelance at 34? Some people never grow up." Emily added her assessment. "She says she values flexibility. I say she's scared of real responsibility." My mother piled on. "I just wish she'd get a real job. Something with benefits. A 401k. And Derek, the financial advisor, delivered the final blow. "She probably doesn't even know what a 401k is." The irony burned. I managed 401k accounts for my clients. I'd helped dozens of people plan their retirements, optimize their investments, secure their futures. But my family assumed I was financially illiterate because I didn't brag about my work. In their world, if you weren't advertising your success, you didn't have any. My love life received the same treatment. Emily wrote, "Another year, another empty +1 at Christmas." Aunt Patricia speculated, Has she even dated anyone since that guy in 2019? My mother's contribution cut the deepest. I've stopped hoping for grandchildren from that direction. And my cousin Megan, who I'd always thought was kind, added her own poison. No man wants someone that invisible. Sorry, not sorry. I'd dated. I'd had relationships. I just didn't broadcast them to the world. My love life wasn't empty. It was private. But in a family that measured worth by Instagram posts, private meant pathetic. The comparisons never stopped. Emily just hit 50,000 followers. Does Jessica even have Instagram? Emily's house is gorgeous. Jessica's still in that tiny apartment. Derek got promoted. What does Jessica even do all day? Then Emily wrote something that made me set my phone down and stare at the wall for a full minute. I feel bad for Jess sometimes. I really do. But then I remember she chose this life. She could have tried harder. She just didn't. My mother's agreement came swiftly. You're too kind, honey. Some people are just born without ambition. Born without ambition. The woman who'd given up a full scholarship so Emily could have stability. The daughter who'd turned down a New York job offer to care for her sick mother. That woman, according to them, simply lacked drive. I found a thread about Grandma Margaret that made my blood run cold. Emily had written, Grandma asked about Jessica again. Why is she so obsessed with her? My mother dismissed it. Mom's always had a soft spot for the underdog. Aunt Patricia laughed. She probably feels sorry for her. We all do. Then Emily, with words that would later prove prophetic. Whatever. As long as she doesn't change the will or something stupid. The will. They were already thinking about Grandma's money. And they were worried she might leave some of it to me. Year 5 was when everything changed. The tone of the messages shifted. Less casual cruelty, more strategic discussion. Derek became more active, and the topics moved from mocking me to discussing family finances. I noticed phrases that didn't quite make sense. References to applications and clean credit and accounts. Then I found a thread that made my hands go cold. Derek had written, "The application went through. Clean credit, no issues." My mother responded, "Thank God. I was worried they'd check too closely." Emily added, "She'll never know. She doesn't even open her mail half the time." And Aunt Patricia delivered her verdict with cruel satisfaction. The failure one is finally useful for something. I read those messages 3 times. Application, credit, she'll never know. What application? Whose credit? More references followed, scattered through the year. The scholarship came through. Full ride. Home improvement loan approved. Thank God for clean credit histories. Tax filing accepted. Benefits secured. None of this made sense. None of it connected to anything I knew about. Until I remembered my credit score. The mysterious drop 6 years ago. The existing debt obligations I'd never understood. A cold feeling spread through my chest as I kept scrolling, faster now, searching for something specific. I found it. A message from Derek, month 8 of year 5. Don't worry, I've got samples of her signature from the family trust documents. I can match it perfectly. Emily's response included a kiss emoji. This is why I married you. Derek, the one with access to bank forms. The one who knew how to make financial documents look legitimate. The one who had samples of my handwriting. My brother-in-law hadn't just joined the family conspiracy. He was running it. I scrolled to the top of the chat, hands trembling, looking for attachments. There it was. A folder icon labeled Family Finance Docs. My thumb hovered over it. The clock showed 1:47 in the morning. I'd been reading for 3 hours. Every accountant knows the truth. The documents tell the real story. The numbers don't lie. I wasn't sure I was ready for this story. I tapped the folder anyway. Loading. Then files appeared, one after another. Personal Loan 2019.pdf. Home Improvement 2021.pdf. Tax Benefits 2022.pdf. Scholarship App 2023.pdf. Credit Report jm.pdf. JM Jessica Monroe, my initials. On files I'd never seen, in a chat I'd never been part of. I opened the first document. Personal Loan 2019. First National Bank of Connecticut. Amount, $28,000. Purpose, debt consolidation. Applicant name, Jessica Monroe. My social security number, my address. My employer listed correctly, everything accurate, and at the bottom, a signature. Jessica Monroe, cursive, flowing, confident. I stared at that signature for a full minute. It wasn't mine. The J was wrong. I always make a sharp loop. This one curved softly. The M had an extra flourish I never used. Someone had studied my handwriting. Someone had practiced. But they hadn't gotten it quite right. Someone had forged my signature on a $28,000 loan. I opened every file, hands trembling, eyes burning. The personal loan from 2019, $28,000, forged signature, funds deposited to an account ending in 7743, not my account. I'd later learn it was Emily's. The home improvement loan from 2021, $19,000, listed as improvements for a property at my mother's address. I was named as co-borrower, another forged signature. The tax benefits from 2022, a form claiming I was the primary caregiver for Margaret Monroe. Tax credit received, $4,200. Filed by my mother. I was never designated as caregiver, never received a penny. The scholarship application from 2023. First-generation college student scholarship for Madison, Emily's daughter. $15,000. The application claimed that neither parent nor close relative held a 4-year degree. I have a bachelor's in accounting from University of Connecticut. Graduated with a 3.8. They'd erased my education to benefit themselves. The accountant in me took over. I did the math. Loans, $47,000. Tax fraud, $4,200. Scholarship fraud, $15,000. Total financial impact connected to my name, my identity, my stolen credit, over $66,000. I opened the last file. My credit report. Score, 589. It should have been over 750. The loans were listed as in repayment, meaning someone was making payments, but the debt was still mine. Still destroying my credit, still preventing me from buying a home, building wealth, living my life. This was why I couldn't buy that condo 6 years ago. This was why my credit score never made sense. They'd been stealing from me for years, and I'd blamed myself for failing. The clock showed 2:14 in the morning. I sat in the dark, documents glowing on my screen. 6 years, $66,000, 1,247 messages of mockery. And not a single one of them thought I'd ever find out. Something changed inside me. The hurt was still there, raw and bleeding. But underneath it, something harder was forming, something with edges. They called me the failure, the invisible one, the quiet one. But invisible people see everything, quiet people hear everything. And failures? Failures have nothing to lose. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone. Instead, I did what I do best. I opened a blank folder on my laptop, named it Evidence, and I started screenshotting. By sunrise, I had everything. 847 screenshots, 4 fraudulent documents, 1 credit report showing the damage they'd done. They thought they knew me. They thought I'd cry, confront them, beg for explanations. They were wrong. I'm an accountant. I don't do emotions. I do receipts. And I was about to give them the audit of their lives. 2:15 in the morning. I opened a blank spreadsheet. Some people cry when they're betrayed. Some people scream. Some people call their mothers. I make spreadsheets. For 16 years, I'd built a career on finding other people's financial mistakes, uncovering discrepancies they'd tried to hide, following paper trails to their inevitable conclusions. Now I was documenting my own family's crimes. I set up the columns with the same precision I used for client audits. Column A, date. Column B, document type. Column C, amount. Column D, my involvement, with options for none, forged, or fraudulent. Column E, who benefited. Column F, evidence location. If they wanted to treat me like a line item, fine. I'd show them what a line item could do. The hurt could wait. Right now, I needed facts. My eyes burned from staring at screens for hours, but the adrenaline kept me sharp. I made a cup of coffee, sat back down at my laptop, and started the real work. First, the personal loan from 2019, $28,000 from First National Bank of Connecticut. I examined the document with professional eyes this time, not just shocked ones. The application listed the purpose as debt consolidation. Clever, generic enough to avoid questions. My employment was correctly listed as self-employed, accounting services. They knew my work details. They had access to my information. But the income was wrong, inflated by $15,000. First fraud right there. The deposit account ending in 7743, not mine. I cross-referenced with the chat messages from 2019 and found what I was looking for. Emily had written, "The money came through. Thank God, Derek's business was about to go under." Derek responded, "Tell your mom I'll pay it back within 2 years." My mother's reply was casual, dismissive. "Don't worry about it. Jessica will never check." Derek's financial advisory business had been failing. They'd used my credit, my name, my identity to bail him out. The man who mocked my career at every family gathering had saved his own career with my stolen signature. Next, the home improvement loan from 2021, $19,000. The document listed improvements for a property at 1422 Maple Drive. My mother's address. New kitchen, roof repairs. I was named as co-borrower, my forged signature authorizing everything. The chat messages from that year filled in the blanks. My mother had written, "The contractor needs the first payment by Friday." Emily asked, "Can we use the same method as last time?" Derek's response was confident, "Already done, signed and submitted." And Aunt Patricia praised him warmly. "Derek, you're a genius. Diane, you raised a good son-in-law." I remembered Thanksgiving, 2021. My mother had spent the entire meal showing off her new kitchen, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances. She'd made pointed comments about my outdated apartment, my cheap laminate counters, my secondhand furniture. She mocked my home while standing in a kitchen I'd unknowingly paid for. I pulled up both loan signatures side by side on my screen, compared them carefully. The same forger had done both. The J looped the same wrong way. The M had that same unnecessary flourish. Someone had practiced my signature. Someone had studied my handwriting samples. A message from Derek in 2019 confirmed everything. "Don't worry, I've got samples of her signature from the family trust documents. I can match it perfectly." Emily's response, "This is why I married you," with a kiss emoji. The family trust. Of course. Years ago, Grandma had set up a small trust and everyone had signed paperwork. Derek must have kept copies, studied my handwriting, perfected his forgery. My brother-in-law wasn't just a participant. He was the architect, the one with the financial knowledge to make fraud look legitimate, the one with access to banks, notaries, forms, the one who'd turned my identity into a family resource. I moved to the tax fraud, 2022, the IRS form for dependent care credit. Filed by Diane Monroe. Claim that Jessica Monroe provided primary caregiving services for Margaret Monroe. Tax benefit received, $4,200. I stared at that form for a long time. Primary caregiver for Grandma. The truth was complicated. I did visit Grandma every week. I drove her to appointments, picked up her medications, called to check on her at night. I did these things because I loved her. Because she was the only person in my family who seemed to actually see me. I never asked for payment, never expected compensation, never agreed to be listed on any official documents. My mother had claimed the tax credit for caregiving I provided for free. She got the money. I got the title of the failure who has nothing better to do than visit an old woman. The chat messages about the tax filing made it worse. My mother had written, "The tax return is done. We're getting $4,200 back." Emily asked how. My mother explained casually, "Listed Jessica as caregiver for Mom." Technically true, right? She's always over there. Derek approved. Smart. Just make sure Jessica never sees the filing. And Aunt Patricia added her assessment with a laughing emoji. She won't. She probably doesn't even do her own taxes properly. The joke landed differently now. I was a professional accountant. I'd prepared hundreds of tax returns. I knew more about tax law than anyone in that chat. But they assumed incompetence because I didn't brag. They assumed ignorance because I was quiet. They'd monetized my love for Grandma without my knowledge, turned my genuine care into a line item on their tax return. I wasn't just a resource to them, I was a write-off. The scholarship fraud was the final document. 2023. A first-generation college student scholarship for Madison Monroe. Emily's daughter, my niece. $15,000 over 4 years. The eligibility requirements were clear. The applicant must be a first-generation college student. Neither parent nor close family member, including aunts and uncles, may hold a 4-year degree. I read the application. Emily Monroe, some college, no degree. True. Derek Monroe, associate's degree only. True. Jessica Monroe, aunt, high school diploma only. False. Completely, deliberately false. I hold a bachelor's degree in accounting from the University of Connecticut. Graduated with a 3.8 GPA. 4 years of coursework, countless exams, a degree I'd earned while working part-time to pay my own tuition because my family said they couldn't help. They didn't just lie on a federal scholarship application, they erased my education. Pretended my degree didn't exist. Also, Emily's daughter could get money she wasn't entitled to. The chat messages about the scholarship revealed the premeditation. Emily had written, "Madison got the scholarship. Full ride." My mother asked how. Emily explained, "Derek found this first-gen scholarship. We just had to fudge Jessica's education a little." Aunt Patricia questioned it. "Does she even have a degree?" I forget. My mother couldn't remember. She went to community college, I think, something like that. Emily dismissed the whole thing. Whatever. The point is, they didn't check. $15,000, baby, 4 years of college. A 3.8 GPA. And my own family couldn't remember I'd graduated. They measured my worth by what I didn't have, never by what I'd actually accomplished. But the worst part came in a follow-up message from Derek. Just to be safe, I backdated the application to before Jessica's name shows up on any public records. Covered our tracks. Emily praised him. "You think of everything," Derek responded with a sunglasses emoji. "It's what I do." Backdated. Covered tracks. This wasn't carelessness or ignorance. This was premeditated fraud with deliberate steps to avoid detection. They'd thought of everything. Except for the possibility that I might find out. I needed more. I searched the chat for Grandma, wanting to understand if she knew anything, if anyone had mentioned her beyond the tax fraud. Dozens of results, mostly casual, party planning, birthday gifts, complaints about her asking too many questions. But one thread caught my attention. The subject line made my heart skip. Grandma's lawyer called. 4 months ago, Emily had written, "Heads up." Grandma's lawyer called Mom. Something about estate review. My mother responded, "He wants to verify beneficiaries." Normal stuff? Derek asked carefully, "Did he ask about any accounts or loans?" My mother said no, not specifically. Then Derek, "Just making sure. We should keep things clean for a while." Aunt Patricia asked what he meant. Derek explained, "I mean no new applications. Let things settle. If anyone starts looking too closely..." Emily cut him off. "Derek, relax. Grandma's 74. She probably just wants to make sure her will is in order." Derek's final message was telling. That's exactly what I'm worried about. I searched for more recent messages, found another thread from 3 months ago. My mother had written, "Update. The lawyer wants to see documentation for family finances. Routine estate planning," he said. Emily asked what that meant. Derek responded, "It means someone's asking questions. Everyone act normal. If Grandma brings anything up, change the subject." Aunt Patricia reported, "She's been asking about Jessica a lot lately, wanting to know if she's doing okay financially." Emily sounded annoyed. "Ugh, she's obsessed with her. My mother gave instructions. Just tell her Jessica's fine. Keep her out of our business." The timeline clicked into place. 4 months ago, Grandma's lawyer started an estate review. 3 months ago, the family got nervous, decided to act normal. 2 weeks ago, Grandma called me directly, said those strange words. I see you. Grandma keeps track of everything. And then, days later, I was accidentally added to the chat. Grandma knew something. Her lawyer was investigating. That's why they were nervous. That's why Derek wanted everything to stay clean for a while. Grandma's words echoed in my head. Grandma keeps track of everything. One final message made my blood run cold. From just 2 weeks ago, after the lawyer's inquiry. My mother had written. The lawyer called again. He wants copies of all documents bearing Jessica Monroe's name. What do we do? Derek responded. Stall. Say we need time to gather everything. Emily asked the obvious question. And then what? Derek's answer was chilling. And then we figure out how to make this go away. 2 weeks ago. The same week Grandma had called about her party. They were trying to make the evidence disappear. They were trying to keep Grandma in the dark. They had no idea I already had copies. I closed the last chat window. The clock showed 6:17 in the morning. Sun was starting to rise outside my window, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. I'd been at this for 8 hours straight. The spreadsheet was complete. Every fraud documented, every timestamp recorded, every connection mapped. Total fraudulent debt in my name, $47,000. Tax fraud, $4,200. Scholarship fraud, $15,000. Total financial impact, over $66,000. Years of fraud, 6. Number of family members involved, 6. Number who apologized, 0. I had 847 screenshots, 4 forged documents, 1 credit report showing the damage, and 1 master spreadsheet connecting everything. Enough evidence to press charges, enough evidence to destroy them. But destruction wasn't what I wanted. I closed my laptop, stared at the sunrise. I didn't want revenge. I wanted something simpler. I wanted them to stop pretending, stop lying, stop treating me like I didn't exist except when they needed something. I wanted the truth spoken out loud, in a room full of people who'd helped them build the lie. Grandma's party was in 3 weeks. 65 guests. Everyone who mattered, the perfect audience. I showered, made fresh coffee, felt strangely calm. I should have been crying, screaming, falling apart. Instead, I felt clear, like I'd been looking at the world through fog for 36 years, and someone had finally wiped the glass. I turned my phone back on for the first time since the night before. Notifications flooded in. 23 missed calls from Emily, 17 from my mother, 8 from Derek, 4 from Aunt Patricia. Dozens of texts, all variations of the same plea. Please call me, we can explain. I read none of them. Among the chaos, one message stood out. An unknown number. Ms. Monroe, this is Howard Chen from Chen & Associates, your grandmother's legal counsel. Mrs. Margaret has asked me to contact you regarding a matter of some urgency. Please call at your earliest convenience. Grandma's lawyer. Reaching out directly. Not through my mother. Not through the family chain. Grandma wasn't just asking questions. She was looking for answers. And now, so was I. I saved the number, typed a reply. Mr. Chen, I'm available this afternoon. I believe we have a lot to discuss. I hit send. They wanted to make the evidence disappear. They wanted to keep Grandma in the dark. They thought they could handle me, handle her, make this all go away. They were about to learn that some things can't be hidden, and some people can't be silenced. I should have slept. My body was running on 8 hours of adrenaline and cold coffee, but my mind wouldn't stop spinning. I sat at my small kitchen table, laptop closed, staring at nothing. Sunlight streamed through the window, warm and ordinary, like the world hadn't completely changed overnight. $66,000, 6 years of fraud, a lifetime of mockery. But one question kept circling back, louder than all the others. How did I become invisible? I didn't mean physically invisible, I meant something deeper. How did I become someone my family could exploit without guilt? Someone they could steal from and mock in the same breath? Someone whose name they could forge without a second thought? Somewhere along the way, I'd stopped being a person to them. I'd become a resource, a signature, a credit score. When did that happen? And why didn't I see it? My eyes landed on a framed photo on the bookshelf across the room. Grandma Margaret's 70th birthday, 5 years ago. I was in the picture, barely, standing at the edge, half cut off by the frame. Emily was front and center, arm wrapped around Grandma, smile brilliant for the camera. That photo told the whole story. I just hadn't known how to read it. But to understand that photo, you need to understand what came before. Before I was 8 years old, I was enough. I was everything. My father called me his little genius. He'd found me at age 5, sitting on the kitchen floor, sorting his loose change into piles by year and denomination. He'd laughed, scooped me up, told my mother that their daughter was going to run a bank someday. I loved numbers even then. The way they made sense, the way they never lied. My mother took me to dance classes, piano lessons, showed me off to her friends. Look at my Jessica, so smart, so capable. For 8 years, I was the center of their world, the only child, the focus of everything. Then came the announcement. My mother had struggled to conceive after me. Miscarriage after miscarriage, years of hoping and disappointment. Then, when I was 7, the news arrived. You're going to be a big sister. Emily was born when I was 8, the miracle baby, the answered prayer, the fresh start after years of loss. The shift began immediately. Suddenly, everything revolved around Emily, the nursery that used to be my playroom, the attention that used to be mine. The conversations that used to include me now happened over my head, about feeding schedules and diaper changes and isn't she beautiful? I told myself it was normal. Babies need more care. I was a big girl now. I could handle it. My role transformed overnight, from the daughter to the helper. Can you watch Emily while I make dinner? Be quiet. Emily's sleeping. You're the big sister. You should know better. My father left when I was 10. Emily was 2. He said he couldn't handle the pressure anymore, the demands, the constant needs. I remember standing in the doorway as he packed his car, hoping he'd look at me. He did once. Smiled that sad smile. Then he took Emily's photo from his wallet, tucked it into his bag, and drove away. I never understood why he took her photo and not mine. I still don't. After the divorce, my mother leaned harder on me. Help me with Emily. Help me with the house. Help me hold this family together. I was 10 years old, and I was already carrying weight that wasn't mine. My 11th birthday was supposed to be special. I'd asked for a calculator, a real one, not a toy. I loved numbers even then. My mother had planned a party, invitations sent, cake ordered, friends excited. The morning of the party, Emily got sick, fever and crying and demands for attention. My mother sat me down, face apologetic but firm. Honey, we'll have to reschedule. Emily needs me. The party never happened. The calculator came 3 months later, unwrapped, with a mumbled, "Sorry, I forgot." That was the first time I learned the lesson my family would teach me over and over again. Emily's needs came first. Mine could wait, or be forgotten entirely. By the time I was 16, I'd internalized that lesson completely. Junior year of high school, I'd worked incredibly hard. 4.0 GPA, honor roll, math team captain, early admission application to Boston University accounting program. The acceptance letter arrived on a Tuesday afternoon in March. I remember holding that envelope, hands shaking. I'd never wanted anything so badly. I tore it open, scanned the words, felt my heart explode. Congratulations, full scholarship, 4 years, everything paid. For 5 minutes, I was the happiest I'd ever been. Then I told my mother. Her face fell immediately. Boston? That's so far away. Emily's only 8. She needs stability. She needs her sister. And what about me? Who's going to help me around the house? The pressure campaign began that night. My mother cried, said she couldn't do it alone, said she'd sacrificed everything for us girls, and now I wanted to abandon her. Aunt Patricia called, voice dripping with disappointment. Your mother sacrificed everything for you. Now you want to leave her? Even Emily, coached or genuine, I'll never know, wrapped her arms around my legs and begged, "Don't leave me, Jessie, please." I turned down the scholarship. Enrolled in community college nearby instead. Lived at home, helped with Emily, helped with bills, helped with everything. I told myself it was the right thing, family first. That's what good daughters do. Funny thing is, no one ever thanked me. They just expected it. Like it was obvious that I would stay. Like leaving was never really an option. Years later, Emily went to college, out of state, full support from my mother. No guilt trips, no we need you here. Suddenly distance didn't matter. Suddenly my mother could manage alone. I didn't realize it then, but the pattern was already set. I sacrifice. Emily receives. And no one notices the difference. I kept the Boston University acceptance letter, found it years later in a box of old papers. On the back, in my mother's handwriting, were words I was never meant to see. Thank God she's staying. Don't know what I'd do without her help with E. She never told me she was relieved, never acknowledged what I gave up. Just wrote it on the back of my broken dream like a grocery note. At 24, I got a second chance. 8 years after the scholarship sacrifice, I'd built a solid career, CPA license, good reputation, steady clients. Then an opportunity appeared, a job offer from a Manhattan accounting firm, senior associate position. Salary nearly double my current income. This was my second chance. Boston had slipped away, but New York was calling. 1 week before I planned to accept, my mother called. Voice shaky, uncertain. I'm having some health issues, Jessica. The doctor wants to run tests. It wasn't life-threatening. Thyroid problems, manageable with medication and monitoring. But my mother painted it as a crisis. Made it sound like she might not survive the month. I called Emily, desperate. Can you come home? Help with Mom? Her response still echoes in my mind. I can't right now. I just started my new job. And Derek and I are trying to get pregnant. You're closer anyway. And you don't have as much going on. Don't have as much going on. Translation, my life mattered less. I turned down the New York job, stayed to help my mother through her health crisis, drove her to appointments, managed her medications, handled insurance paperwork. She recovered within 3 months, fully fine. By then, the New York job was gone, filled by someone else, someone whose family didn't need them to stay small. While I played caregiver, Emily's life blossomed. She announced her pregnancy, huge celebration. She got promoted at work. My mother flew out to celebrate. She bought her first house. The family helped with the down payment. I spent 6 months managing my mother's pill schedule. Emily spent 6 months building her perfect life. And when my mother recovered, she told everyone, I don't know what I would have done without Emily's emotional support. She called every single day, Emily called, I was there. But Emily got the credit for phone calls while I got nothing for physical presence. I was 25 when I overheard the conversation that finally broke something inside me. Family dinner at my mother's house. I stepped away to use the bathroom. On my way back, I heard voices from the kitchen. My mother and Aunt Patricia, speaking in that tone people use when they think no one's listening. Jessica's doing fine, my mother said, but I worry about her future. No husband, no real career ambition. She's just content to be ordinary. Aunt Patricia agreed readily. Emily, on the other hand, that girl is going places. I stood in that hallway and felt something inside me go quiet, not angry, not sad, just quiet, like a light switching off. At 30, I tried one more time to build something for myself. I'd saved enough for a down payment. Found a perfect small condo, nothing fancy but mine. A place I could own outright. Independence. Security. Proof that the quiet daughter had accomplished something. The mortgage application should have been simple. Good income. No debt that I knew of. Responsible spending habits. Then the call came. Ms. Monroe, there seems to be an issue with your credit history. Your score is significantly lower than expected. I was confused. I'd never missed a payment. Never carried credit card debt. How could my score be in the 500s? The loan officer mentioned existing debt obligations I didn't recognize. I requested my credit report, but the complexity overwhelmed me. Numbers that didn't make sense. Accounts I'd never opened. I gave up on the condo, told myself I'd figure it out later. I never connected the dots, never realized that my existing debt obligations were loans my family had taken in my name. When I mentioned the credit issue at family dinner, the responses were telling. My mother offered sympathy with a sting. "Maybe you should be more careful with money, honey." Emily was helpful in a way that now makes my skin crawl. "Credit stuff is confusing. Derek could look at it for you if you want." Derek nodded eagerly. "Happy to help. Just send me your info." I almost did. I almost sent my financial information to the man who was actively destroying my credit. Something stopped me. Instinct, maybe. Or just the look in Derek's eyes. A little too eager. A little too interested. Now I understood. He'd been afraid I'd discover what he'd done. Offering to help was his way of controlling the damage. Throughout all these years, one person remained steady. Grandma Margaret. While everyone else was too busy seeing Emily, Grandma was watching me, noticing me, keeping track. I remember being 16, crying in my room after giving up Boston. Grandma came to visit, found me with tears streaming down my face. "You gave up the scholarship, didn't you?" I nodded. She took my hand, held it tight. "You're a good girl, Jessica. Too good, maybe. But remember something. Being kind doesn't mean being invisible. Don't let them make you small." I didn't understand then. I do now. At 24, after New York fell through, Grandma called me directly. "I heard about the job. I'm sorry." I gave her the excuse I'd been telling myself. "It's okay. Family needs me." Her response was quiet but firm. "Family should need you and want you to succeed. Those aren't opposites, sweetheart." At 30, after the condo denial, I visited Grandma, frustrated and confused. I didn't go into details, just mentioned financial complications. She studied my face with those sharp eyes. "Jessica, if something doesn't add up, don't ignore it. You're an accountant. Trust your instincts." I should have listened harder. Grandma kept a notebook. I'd noticed it for years. Small leather cover, always nearby. Once I asked her, "What do you write in there?" "Everything, honey. Who visits, who calls, who actually shows up versus who just talks about showing up." I keep track. Someone should. At the time, I thought it was just an old woman's quirk. Now I understood. Grandma wasn't being sentimental. She was building a record. 2 months before the group chat discovery, I visited Grandma as usual. Sunday afternoon. Tea in the garden. She seemed more serious than normal, more focused. "Jessica, I need to ask you something important. And I need you to be honest." "Of course, Grandma. Has anyone in this family ever asked you to sign something you didn't understand? Or used your name for anything without asking?" I was confused. "No, I don't think so. Why?" She studied me for a long moment. Those eyes that missed nothing. "No reason, honey. Just making sure." She knew. Even then, she suspected something. She was giving me a chance to connect the dots myself. As I was leaving that day, she said something else. Something I'd dismissed as old woman sentimentality. "Whatever happens in the next few weeks, remember this. Grandma sees you. Grandma has always seen you. And when the truth comes out, I want you to know. None of it is your fault." I thought she was being dramatic, preparing for mortality. The kind of thing people say at 74. She wasn't being dramatic. She was preparing me. I blinked, returned to the present, still sitting at my kitchen table, coffee cold again. Hours had passed while I was lost in memory. 36 years of being the responsible one, the one who stayed, the one who helped. And in return, I was mocked, exploited, erased. They made me invisible because invisible people don't ask questions, don't demand credit, don't notice when their name is being used to fund someone else's life. I wasn't born invisible. They made me that way. One sacrifice at a time, one dismissal at a time, one you don't have as much going on at a time. And I let them. That was the hardest part to accept. I let them. But invisible people see everything. We watch, we listen, we notice. And now I had proof of exactly what I'd seen. My phone buzzed. A text from the unknown number. Mr. Howard Chen. Miss Monroe, I can meet you today at 2 p.m. if that works. My office is downtown. Your grandmother specifically requested that this meeting remain confidential. Confidential. From her own family, I typed back. I'll be there. I looked at the photo on the bookshelf one more time. The one where I was barely in frame. The one where Emily stood center stage while I faded into the edges. For 36 years, I'd accepted my place at the margin of the family photo. Not anymore. It was time to step into the center and let them see exactly who they'd been looking past. Chen and Associates occupied the third floor of a brick building downtown. Old Connecticut money architecture. The kind that whispered, "Trust me," without saying a word. I arrived at 1:52 in the afternoon, 8 minutes early. My laptop bag hung heavy on my shoulder, weighted with evidence I'd spent the morning organizing. 847 screenshots, 4 fraudulent documents, 1 master spreadsheet connecting everything. I'd spent my career walking into meetings with other people's financial secrets. This was the first time I was walking in with my own. The receptionist led me down a hallway lined with oak panels and framed degrees. Everything about this place spoke of legitimacy, permanence, the kind of stability my family had only ever pretended to have. Grandma's lawyer wanted to meet in secret, away from the family. Either she was protecting me, or she was about to deliver news that would change everything. I was hoping for the first, bracing for the second. The corner office door opened, and I got my first look at Howard Chen, mid-60s. Silver hair swept back from a weathered face. Calm demeanor that suggested he'd heard every secret and kept all of them. The walls behind him were lined with degrees from Yale and Columbia, family photos spanning decades, awards from legal associations I recognized. 30 years as Margaret's estate attorney. He knew my family's history better than I did. Ms. Monroe. He gestured to a leather chair across from his desk. Thank you for coming on short notice. I sat, gripping my bag. What's this about? Your grandmother insisted I reach out to you directly. Not through your mother, not through Emily. He paused, letting that sink in. She was very specific about that. Why? Howard studied me for a moment. The same assessing gaze Grandma used when she was deciding whether to share something important. Because she believes, and I'm inclined to agree, that you're the only member of this family who hasn't been lying to her. The words hit like a physical blow. Validation and accusation wrapped together. Howard opened a drawer, pulled out a thick folder. 4 months ago, your grandmother asked me to conduct a routine estate review. Standard procedure for someone her age. During that review, I discovered some irregularities. What kind of irregularities? Loans, tax filings, scholarship applications. All connected to one name that kept appearing in places it shouldn't. My throat tightened. My name. Your name. He nodded slowly. On documents you clearly didn't sign. So Grandma knew. She'd been investigating. While I was going about my life, oblivious, my grandmother had been quietly uncovering everything. She asked me to investigate without alerting the family. Howard slid the folder across the desk. She didn't want to accuse anyone without proof. Over the past 4 months, I've compiled a complete record. I opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside were copies of the same documents I'd found in the chat. The personal loan, the home improvement loan, the tax claims, the scholarship application. But there was more. Documents I hadn't seen, records I didn't know existed. I believe you've been compiling something similar. Howard's eyes were knowing. Your grandmother said you were thorough, the accountant in the family. She knew I'd find out. She hoped you would. She also hoped she could protect you from the worst of it before you did. I flipped through the pages, my professional eye catching details I'd missed in my exhausted late-night review. Then I stopped cold. A notarized letter, dated 2020. Authorization to act on behalf of Jessica Monroe in all financial matters. My name typed neatly at the top. My social security number, my address. and at the bottom a signature that looked almost like mine. Almost. A notary stamp made it official. Legal. Binding. This is a power of attorney. My voice came out hollow. Someone gave themselves legal authority to act on my behalf. Not someone. Howard's voice was gentle but firm. Derek Monroe. Your brother-in-law. With this document, he could sign on your behalf. Open accounts, apply for loans, all perfectly legal-looking. I stared at the forged signature. The careful loops. The practiced strokes. Derek hadn't just forged individual signatures. He'd forged my entire financial identity, created a legal framework that allowed him to become me whenever he needed money. Howard continued. This is how he made everything look legitimate. Power of attorney on file, signatures that matched, a paper trail that would hold up to casual scrutiny. How did Grandma find out? Howard leaned back. Your grandmother keeps a notebook. Has for years. She tracks who visits, who calls, who actually shows up. About a year ago, she noticed a pattern. Emily talked about money constantly, new purchases, renovations, Derek's business success. But Emily's actual visits decreased, and her requests for loans from your grandmother increased. He pulled out another document. 6 months ago, your mother asked your grandmother to co-sign a loan. Just a formality, she said. The bank needs a guarantor. Your grandmother asked to see the paperwork first. Your mother stalled, changed the subject, eventually said they'd figured out another solution. That's when she called you. That's when she called me. She said, Howard, something's wrong. Find out what. I sat with that for a moment. My grandmother, 74 years old, sharp as ever, watching her family unravel and choosing to investigate rather than ignore. There's something else. Howard's voice dropped. This is recent. Just 3 weeks ago. He slid another document across the desk. An application for a home equity line of credit. Property listed as Margaret Monroe's residence. Grandma's house. Applicant, Derek Monroe, acting on behalf of Margaret Monroe. Amount requested, $150,000. Status, pending. My blood went cold. They were trying to leverage Grandma's house, without her knowledge. This application was submitted using a forged power of attorney for your grandmother, similar to yours. Derek created documents giving himself authority over her finances, too. They were going to steal from Grandma. They were going to take everything she had. Howard's jaw tightened. The house she's lived in for 40 years. Her life savings, everything. That's when she decided. No more investigation. Time for action. The full scope of what Howard had uncovered made my head spin. The personal loan, $28,000. Funds traced to Derek's business account. Used to cover gambling losses at a Connecticut casino. Gambling. Derek had a gambling problem. The home improvement loan, $19,000. Mother's house, never repaid. Still accruing interest in my name. The tax fraud, $4,200. Mother claimed benefits she wasn't entitled to. Used my caregiving as a write-off while giving me nothing. The scholarship fraud, $15,000. Madison's application contained material falsehoods about my education. The power of attorney, created in 2020, giving Derek legal control over my financial life. And now, the home equity application. $150,000. Grandma's house as collateral, 4 people, 6 years. And you were the only one who didn't know. Howard listed them quietly. Derek orchestrated everything. Emily enabled it. Your mother participated willingly. Your aunt facilitated the tax fraud. A family conspiracy, organized and systematic, with me as the unwitting source of funds. What does Grandma want to do? Howard folded his hands. Your grandmother could press charges. The evidence is overwhelming. Derek alone faces potential prison time, identity theft, forgery, bank fraud. The sentences could run consecutively. But that's not what she wants. She's 75 years old. She's watched her family lie, cheat, and steal. But they're still her family. Then what does she want? The truth. In front of everyone. No more hiding. No more pretending. Howard explained the plan. Grandma's 75th birthday party, 2.5 weeks away, 65 guests, family, friends, neighbors, business associates, everyone who mattered to the Monroe family social standing. She wants to use that moment to expose what's been happening. Publicly, undeniably, with witnesses who can't be gaslit or manipulated. And she wants me there. She wants you front and center, not in the back, not on the edges. You've been invisible long enough. My role was simple. Be present. Answer honestly if Grandma asked me questions. Let the family see that I knew what they'd done. She'll do the heavy lifting, Howard assured me. The accusations, the evidence, the confrontation. That's her responsibility. All she needs from you is to stand beside her and tell the truth. I thought about 36 years of standing at the edges, of being overlooked and underestimated, of watching Emily take center stage while I faded into the background. I've been waiting my whole life to be seen. I can handle standing in the middle of a room. Howard nodded, something like respect in his eyes. Then he handed me a business card. This is my associate, Rachel Chen. No relation. She specializes in identity theft and financial fraud. If you want to build a legal case for yourself, even just for protection, she's the best. That evening, I met Rachel Chen at a coffee shop downtown, mid-30s. Sharp eyes behind simple glasses. No-nonsense demeanor that reminded me of myself on my best days. Howard told me about your situation. She flipped through the evidence I'd brought, the screenshots, the documents, my master spreadsheet. I've seen a lot of fraud cases. This one's impressive. And I don't mean that as a compliment to your family. What are my options? Legally? She set down her coffee. You could press criminal charges. Identity theft, forgery, bank fraud. Derek alone could face 5 to 10 years. And the others? Your mother and aunt, accessory charges. Emily, conspiracy. Everyone involved could face consequences. This isn't just civil liability. This is criminal. I absorbed that. My mother in court. My sister facing charges. Derek in prison. The question is, what do you want? I'd been asking myself that same question since 3 a.m. I don't want to destroy them. The words came slowly, carefully. I want them to stop. I want them to acknowledge what they did. I want my name cleared, my credit restored. And I want it on the record, legally and publicly, that I was a victim, not a participant. Rachel nodded like she'd expected that answer. Then here's what we do. We document everything. Create an airtight file. After your grandmother's party, we send formal letters to everyone involved. Repay the loans, correct the tax filings, admit to the scholarship fraud, or face civil and criminal action. We give them a choice. They can make this right quietly, or they can make it right in court. Either way, your name gets cleared. She paused, scrolling through chat screenshots I'd provided. One more thing. She stopped at a thread from 3 months ago. Her expression sharpened. Emily to Derek. How are we going to make the next loan payment? We're already behind on the house. Derek's response. I'll figure something out. I always do. Emily again. Derek, I'm serious. If we default, it goes on Jessica's credit again. People might start asking questions. Derek's final message. Then we make sure no one asks questions. Rachel looked up. They're not just fraudsters. They're broke. The perfect family image. The Instagram lifestyle. The expensive house and fancy cars. It's financed entirely by your stolen identity. Without you, they have nothing. I returned home that evening with a new understanding. I opened my laptop, combined Howard's documents with my own, created a master timeline of every fraudulent act, every forged signature, every stolen dollar. Derek's finances were worse than I'd realized. The chat messages painted a picture of desperation. His financial advisor business had been struggling for years. The gambling problem explained the cash flow issues. He'd borrowed from clients, covered losses with my credit, and he was currently 3 months behind on his own mortgage. Derek wasn't a criminal mastermind. He was a desperate man who'd found an easy victim. Emily's perfect marriage was cracking too. Chat messages revealed constant money stress. Emily complaining about Derek's stupid investments. Derek snapping back about Emily's expensive lifestyle, references to marriage counseling that didn't work. Instagram. Emily had 80,000 followers watching her perfect life. Real Emily was drowning in debt and a failing marriage, and I was the life raft they'd been clinging to without my knowledge. My mother's role was clearer now too. She'd known about every fraud, participated in several, used her health crisis to keep me close and controllable. The chat messages showed her justifying it to herself. Jessica doesn't need the money anyway. We're doing her a favor, really, giving her a purpose. A favor? They stole $66,000 and called it a favor. One final discovery made my jaw clench. A chat message from last week, after I'd been accidentally added. Derek to Emily. If she shows up at the party, we handle it. Deny everything. Make her look crazy. Emily's concern. What if Grandma believes her? Derek's response dripping with condescension. Grandma's 75. We can manage her. My mother, agreeing. Derek's right. We've handled Jessica for years. This is no different. They were still planning, still scheming, still underestimating everyone. They thought they could manage Grandma. They had no idea what was coming. I closed my laptop, stared at the evidence folder on my desktop. Every fraud documented, time-stamped, cross-referenced. For the first time in my life, I wasn't facing my family alone. Grandma Margaret was orchestrating the exposure. Howard Chen provided legal protection for her. Rachel Chen provided legal protection for me. Cousin Nathan, who I'd be meeting soon, had his own evidence to share. 2.5 weeks until the party. They thought they had time. Time to deny, deflect, gaslight. They thought I'd confront them privately, where they could spin the narrative. They didn't know Grandma was involved. Didn't know lawyers were building cases. Didn't know I had more evidence than they could imagine. They thought this was just about a group chat. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Jess, I know you're upset. Can we please talk before the party? I can explain everything. It's not what you think. And then a heart emoji. A red heart. Like we were close. Like we were actually sisters. I typed a reply. I'll see you at Grandma's party, Emily. We can talk then. Hit send. Let her think she still had control. Let them all think that. In 2.5 weeks, they'd learn the truth, and I'd finally step out of the shadows. 10 days before Grandma's party, 5 days since I'd been accidentally added to Family Core. 5 days since I'd read every message, documented every fraud, built a case that could send my brother-in-law to prison. And in all that time, I hadn't said a single word. Silence is an accountant's best friend. When you're auditing someone, you don't announce your findings mid-review. You wait, you watch.